Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Fitter and Faster Coaches Corner. As always, I'm your host, Mike Murray. A very chilly morning here in Western New York, Emmett. We just got under 40 degrees for the first time, and I know there's a host of months ahead, and you're looking warm yourself with your brewer's beard as per
That's
usual. But so thrilled to have you on the Fitter and Faster Coaches Corner, Emmett Walling from the Peddie School in Hightsown, New Jersey. Over the course of my swimming career and my coaching career, I've had many close friends, either coaching at Peddie and who have gone to Peddie. In fact, my best friend from high school did his PG year there, Tom Roman, and had a great experience swimming for Chuck Batchelor. So a school that's steeped in tradition, steeped in history. Some of the coaching greats in this country, Chris Martin, I mentioned Chuck Batchelor, Greg Reed, who was there for such a long time and did a great job. And I know a friend and mentor to you. Peddie is one of those blue blood United States swimming prep schools. We think of great athletes who have come through the school, notably Nelson Diebel, who there's so much legendary talk about in his time at Peddie. What is it like? You've been there for many years now, but what is it like being now the head guy, the lead guy in charge of a blue blood American swim program?
I mean, you nailed it. That is the everyday, passion and purpose that we have here. But coming into a program like this is so different than anything I've ever been a part of. It's great, doing alumni relations with some of the people that you were just mentioning, and hoping to grow that and expand that as we get back. BJ Bedford era, Jane Skillman, Mark Sedlak, right? Like connecting with him in senior zone meet up in Buffalo was phenomenal. He's like, there's a need, there's a desire for our years, the old guys, as I think he put it. Mark, you're not that old, man. But he's looking for that, and I think everyone else is, and because your high school years are so formative. I think everyone can look past and back in their time spent here and just say, what a transformative environment it is, athletically, academically, as a culture. A small school, 530 some odd kids, in current attendance, with about 60% boarding, 40% day student. It's a really, really neat place. The facilities are phenomenal. It offers everything, but every once in a while, I'll tell the kids during the hard set, look up, and we've got, our Olympians just broadcasted right over on the spectator seat. We got our record board. And so, steeped in tradition, I tell them all the time, make sure you're hanging up your goggles and placing your suit on a better hook than when you came in and where it was kind of sitting. That's the name of the game, right? Developing character, developing these young kids, and giving them something to work for. And obviously the pride and tradition goes a long way, but they're doing something of their own here as well, right? They've got all that pride and what Peddie pride can offer, but they're doing their thing pretty well here.
And Emmett, as a native athlete from New Jersey yourself, growing up in New Jersey, what was the perception of Peddie from those athletes that maybe you swam with and that you grew up with?
Yeah, so I thought at one point I was racing, Josh Trinanaker, Peter Park, he's here, and his brother Patrick ended up going to ASU and doing very well there. But Connor Signoran, all those guys back in the day, like I say back in the day, I graduated in 06, and I had no clue what Peddie was. I just knew of those people and the class acts that they were and what they brought to the pool, whether it was at Rutgers for a meet or Princeton or wherever, the big meets were being held. I knew that I would be challenged, and hopefully I'm challenging them at the same time. As a team, I come from a small team, CJAC, Central Jersey Aquatic Club, with Corinne Winkowski at the helm since '88. Phenomenal coach, but we were 6 lanes. They still are 6 lanes, 25 yards in Monmouth University, which has rich tradition too. At the same time, right? We got Johnny Skinner, who set a world record there, and not that full, but operating there. Kathy Hessian, Corcione at the time, and Kathy Hetty and Wendy Bullioli. Like, it's just Jersey, New York, just entrenched with fast swimming. So we knew Peddie and Greg was doing a great job at the time, and we knew we would go up to a decent relay. We would go up and face Peddie, but I had no idea what the academics were here, right? I had no idea. I was a public school kid myself until USC, and I got a little glimpse of it. Now I find myself trying to get into some of the classrooms here and like getting into a physiology lab or a biological lab and having fun. These kids have a lot at their fingertips. It's an incredible place.
When you think about coaching high school, rarely do you think about coaching athletes who may be on a whole different intellectual level than even we are as coaches, right? You're dealing with some of the best and the brightest. And you're also dealing with that kid that struggles in high school just like everywhere else. So how do you find that balance, and how do you support your student athletes as a coach at an elite level prep school?
I think training wise, we have a very, very cultured approach, very traditional approach. We're going 3 on, 1 off essentially. And we're taking Wednesday afternoons off with the varsity group. And I think that's new to them this year. I don't know if they're taking that as much as it could serve them. I don't know if they're really taking advantage of it right now, but they soon will learn to. And so you've got office hours, you've got endless resources here. As a faculty, I'm not teaching faculty, but as a faculty member, me branching off and making those connections up on campus and making sure everyone knows what Peddie swimming is and having that understanding has gone a long way as well, right? I'll catch some faculty at lunch or breakfast, which we eat on campus here, and we'll go over a certain someone. And when you have a class size of 6 to 1 students to teacher, it's easy, and no one really gets dropped through the cracks. No one slips through, and I think that's really important here, whereas other kids could get lost. And it is challenging academically. It is challenging with kids that struggle to keep up. We have kids that just excel and they want that structure. They need the structure of swimming, which I'm a firm believer in. And we're all in education, right? We're all trying to do behavioral modification to some degree, teaching, coaching, whatever, veterinarians, I don't know, right? We're all doing the same thing, but I have found very in a collegiate environment that staying connected with the teaching faculty and staying connected with the kids and being relevant in time, right in the heat of the moment is very, very important. And so when we have access to facilities like we do, I can break up the day, I can break up the week for a given swimmer and say, you know what, I don't do it often, but come in the afternoon, we have Wednesday off. If you want to swim, you need an optional lift, come in and do that. But at the same time, trying to maintain the integrity of the team is important too. So we have kids that do struggle, but in the end, they'll graduate Peddie. And from what I've seen, they do phenomenal things regardless. Yeah.
There's no doubt about that, Emmett. And I want to talk about some of the things that you learned as an athlete, swimming for Coach Dave Salo at USC, and as a young coach working with David Marsh at Coronado, and also with the college team there. You were very fortunate to have 2 of the very best coaches and arguably 2 of the very best mentors of coaches in your young career and as a student athlete. So let's start with Salo first. What are some of the takeaways philosophically that you left USC with after swimming for one of the best ever?
Absolutely. Dave, Jeremy, and David, they all taught me, we could start with Salo, but they all taught me, I wanted to be an athlete. And don't let it fool you. What we did at SC, and you don't let Sprint Salo fool you too much. Like we were putting in the work. But at the same time, he saw bodies, he listened to people, and he saw them as they progressed. And man, he got the best out of us. And he was so much like Peter Dalen. I had the fortunate place where we would travel to NCs or we'd go to Pac-10s and 12s at the time. It was 10. And you were just another human, right? And so Dave Salo's thing was the best compliment I could ever have was, that's it, in the middle of a practice or at the end of practice, like, that's it, that's all we're doing. Not to the certain degree of like, hey, we're going 3,000, it's all fast, and that's it, right? But as a mentor in the moment, so many coaches are mentors after their college career, their student athletes college career, or maybe they're getting to a career themselves. Then they become a mentor, but Dave was there every day, putting us through the ringer, but at the same time, really making us kind of a better human at the same time. And so actually a funny story with Dave Salo. I mean, we took a retreat probably in 2010. And we went up to Santa Barbara, and one of the kids on the team was from Santa Barbara. So he thought he knew the area fairly well. And we went on a retreat. We were staying at the lifeguard headquarters on Santa Barbara. I think it was pretty close to C Street. Not 100% sure on that, but we're on the beach doing beach workouts, swimming, open water swimming, doing whatever we needed to do, having a good time, getting to know each other. But I think on that same retreat, we went up this mountain, and this kid, like I said, thought he knew his way around the area and said, oh, there's a great hiking place up here. We go off on this hike that lasts 2-3 plus hours, definitely plus 3 hours on the way down. And we're just passing boulders, and Dave's like, yeah, I'll do it with you guys, right? Like, hey, like, and he did. He totally did. I mean, we were huffing and puffing in the California sun over rocks and boulders. And we all took kind of different staggered ways down this mountain. And I turned back, and Dave's right behind me, and he's just such a good leader. Phenomenal coach, don't get me wrong, but just a great person, great leader. And Marsh is the same way. I met Marsh when I was 16 on a recruiting trip with, who was I with? Scott Spann and Matt McLean and Nathan Adrian. Like that was a great trip. And my first impression of him was, okay, he's similar to Dave. He's similar to Corinne. If I can handle a Corinne workout, I can handle anything. I don't know what Auburn's doing at the time, but that was probably ignorant at the time. But anyway, I've been so fortunate with mentors and coaches that have become friends. And they're all so busy in their own right. But Frank Bradley's another one. Just a huge friend and mentor, and he's out of the college coaching world right now, but he's brilliant, right? He's absolutely brilliant. He's a Jack Roach phenomenon. He's just in his own right. He's a good guy.
A warrior poet coach, Jack Roach.
Jack Roach is something else. Yeah.
I can't encourage young coaches enough to take advantage of the time that you have to connect with Jack Roach and just listen. You don't even need to take notes, right? It's just listen. I called him about a question a year ago, and we ended up on the phone, I think, for an hour and a half, and I just got to listen. And it sounds like you did a lot of that with Salo and Marsh. Talk about how you've used their philosophy with maybe something they did with the team, or some sort of tradition that they built in that you're going to take to Peddie. Because if you grew up, Emmett, when you and I grew up, and Peddie was what it was always known for a place of high volume, middle distance focus, and it's evolved a little bit. But what kind of philosophy are you bringing to Peddie?
That's a tough one. I think in everything we do, the biggest thing I could bring to my athletes is a certain level of grit, to have that passion, but also have the purpose of racing, right? And just to absolutely surround yourself with the idea of getting up to 100% level, right? 100% effort in practice. That's something that each coach, as I passed through, and my dad was an age group coach of mine, right? It was 30 some odd years ago, right? And even him, right? Even in the fundamental stuff, it was enjoy racing. They never took that away from me, even if it was ugly. I joke a lot, and some of the guys that I swam with and girls that I swam with like one of my first trials cuts was in a get out swim after I got into USC's practice. They were going long course in that afternoon, and I was coming off of I think it was a physiology exam. It was either a final or a midterm, and I was late to practice. And then all the entire coaching staff, Catherine knew it, and everyone knew it. But I go into the locker room, put my Speedo on, and suddenly, an hour into practice, I get this get out swim, and I had to be under a trials time to get out. And like just did it, right? But every single one of them. That's what I bring here. There's no specific sets. I think we train a certain way. At the same time, I train very different, right? You know, and I think you talk to any of our swimmers here, right? If you talk to Sarah Plunkett, take it for instance, right? She's probably got a taste of a good amount of coaching. You could look at my practice and just be like, what's going on here? Right? So it's like it's a mix, it's a hybrid of everything. But it's what I found to work. And nothing gets stale. That's the biggest piece. Just trying to keep that sharpness and racing day to day. And like I said, bringing it up to 100% when you need to. And be willing to do that. That's a commonality between all of my coaches, and I hope all of my swimmers now and future.
Well, I feel very fortunate that you get to have Sarah during the school year and beyond. I think it's we're obviously, we would love to have her, but I think Peddie's a perfect place. And for the goals that she has and the schools she wants to go to, it's a sweet spot. And I'm looking forward to seeing how she grows into a program like yours. She's certainly got the aerobic background, I can promise you that.
Yeah, I bet.
But I know that she's going to be able to jump off some of that stuff. And talk to us, Emmett. Like, what does a hard night look like for you for your upper level groups?
Upper level group, these first 6 weeks have been an absolute capacity loading phase, and we've got 2 IMers. We have people that won't even have a great 2 IM in their future that are training 4 IM. And like I said, don't get me wrong, like, sprint Salo, but I don't know what you want to call me. But let's say taking a Wednesday afternoon with the club team, right? Because we have the varsity team, we've got the club team, and very often we interweave. Wednesdays and Saturdays are the option to do that. And so kids take up on that offer. We had a great set a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago probably, as we're really loading up that 4 IM feel, and even primary stroke, right? We'll swim primary stroke a lot. And a lot of it is you better be able to swim a 200 and down, but be able to train a 400. My swimmers will tell you, okay, Tuesday we're going in for a 300 set, right? And it'll happen. But we had this great set. It was very simple, right? But execution wise, it was phenomenal. I saw some really cool things. We had a 200, which is billed by 50. So every 50 they're getting up, and across the spectrum of energy systems, they're probably hitting each one within each 50 of a 200. And then building that into a 300 negative split, right? And then some sort of race pace following that. We had breaststrokers, going 214 in that set. Some of the top level male breaststrokers going 214, and then pushing 28s and some race pace. Some of our backstrokers, Sarah, I think, was in there going. She had probably a rough day. She was coming off of a hard Tuesday, and she was between 210, 214, somewhere in that range, and just consistently pushing. But again, learning how to swim when you're breaking down is a huge, huge feature that I hope to teach the kids, and they take on. But there's a lot of threshold. There's a lot of, hey, let's take a hot minute, which could be 3 or 5 minutes, and really, really digest the set before you get going. We haven't done the recruiting tool that Dave Salo caught me with, and which was on a Saturday morning during my trip there. They brought in 6 sprinters probably into the deep end, and they had a plyometric, box jump, metal frame, polymer top, and five people were supporting this with fins on, vertical kick. Okay. Yeah, vertical kick, 5 people around. One would climb up, right, and dive off the plyo box and do a 25 sprint, 25 easy, grab the plyo box, next person would get up, right? And so that's the kind of stuff that really captured me. And again, I don't bring that into my practices maybe yet. One day I'm sure they'll love to do it, but that's the intensity that I'm talking about, getting up to that 100 and plus and just finding some grit and passion with what you're doing and mixing it up.
It sounds to me like you have a healthy dose of the outside the box thinking that both Dave Marsh and Dave Salo have. Sometimes I had to pinch myself and ask a board meetings, and I'm sitting there with both those guys. And we used to call them the 2 Daves. Let's hear from the 2 Daves. And it would always be, this next level stuff. So I've had both of them on Coach's Corner, and I've been very fortunate to meet them in person a bunch of times, and I know some of the things that they do. But why do you think some of that outside the box stuff is so important to this generation of athletes and keeping them interested in the work, keeping them engaged, trying things that are so outside the realm of what many athletes probably think is logical or rational, just based on the fact that a lot of high school coaches and club coaches don't have the ability to see an athlete sit in the hot tub for 2 minutes, run out, dive, and sprint a 25-meter butterfly, right? Or have a belt on with a pulley that has a weight attached to it and do underwater kick for 50 meters, right? We just don't have the time or space to explore those kinds of things. So talk to our coaches about why it's important to have moments where you're doing something that's so outside the norm that it becomes incredibly engaging, and the skills the athletes develop from doing those new things are incredibly important for their development.
Yeah, I mean, you could take that across the board, things like that, or hitting an open swim where you've got challenging conditions, taking it to the pool, mixing it up. I think it's important mostly because the kids know what's out there. These kids are so read up on what other top level coaches are doing, what other programs are doing. We've got social media that's capturing almost every 5-10 minutes of a practice, collegiately, club, in the professional arena now with the ISL. And so they know what's out there, and yet my duty, my job is to hold them accountable to say, yeah, but that's not happening every practice. That's not happening every day. I want to be able to sprinkle that in when we need it. If we're fresh and ready for it, we can do it. Otherwise, you know what day it is: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and you know what to expect. The surprises in there, like I said, keep it fresh. The learning factors is pretty quick, and those are the things that many kids will talk about when they're done. I mean, look at me, I'm talking about the specific recruiting. It wasn't even a recruiting tool. Dave, if you're listening, I don't know if it was a recruiting tool or not, but it worked. But I do. I like to keep things fresh. Sparks, get them talking at the lunch table, right? We have like 50 tables in our dining hall down here at Peddie School, and I love just going down there in the middle of the day and working my way around these tables and thinking and honestly eavesdropping on some discussions and maybe taking the time to stop and say, yeah, it wasn't too bad, or whatever set you're talking about was hard, and they're all having smiles on their face. But changing it up is fun. I think we're getting more athletes in the sport, multi-athletes, right? Multi-sport athletes, or even just general bodies, right? Swimmers were the longest time known as swimmers, not an athlete. And from my knowledge, from my collegiate experience at UC San Diego and coaching Coronado with a very transient community and naval approach to parenting, we're getting those kids. They are out there. As much as people want to complain about kids these days, like, no, they are sponges. They want to do it. They're doing the work. You just have to be good with how you're planning out your week or your month. I mean, to be honest with you. And if you keep pounding them, it's not going to work. It does have to be sprinkled in every other 2-3 weeks, maybe. Who knows? But that's where I've seen success, and then those are the fun, explosive practices that we have even here. Maybe not to that degree, but they're here.
Now, the one of the traditions at Peddie has always been, I think it's called the quad athlon, right? With the athletes that I've had who have gone to Peddie from our program, they talk about that every year. Tell the audience what that is and why it's important in development. You know, when I swam at Rutgers for Chuck Warner, we used to do it, and we would look so forward to that practice because it meant we were going to be doing a little bit less, and we'd get to go fast and swim some 50s of stroke.
That's true. So we do it in hundreds, and we have the aggregate time running, but it's 100 of each stroke in IM order, and then 100 IM. And this year we did it 2 weeks early, and a lot of the swimmers called me out on it, and you know, it's my first year head coaching, but we were ready. Right. And
I heard one particular athlete went very fast.
One particular athlete did go fast, ended up breaking the all-time girls record. Sarah Plunkett, another shout out. Man, she was phenomenal. She was lighting it up. I think, you know, her breaststroke was the one that kind of held her back, but she broke Caroline Fitton's record. I have a strong connection with the Fitton family. I swam at the same time as Annie. And
she went to Notre Dame, right? Or Penn State?
She was Maryland, and then kind of Maryland lost their program a little bit. And what did she do after that? I mean, she was teaching for a little bit, then she was in the city. She's been a part of, you know, worlds at the lifeguard USLA level. That world team with Mike Barrows, who's a Mercersburg guy. And he's still local. His kid's swimming.
Shout out to Mike Barrows. Mike Barrows is the lifeguard guy. I mean, he is the lifeguard competition guy, South Jersey royalty when it comes to that kind of stuff.
That's right. That's right. And I spent a lot of my summers, right? That's kind of the greatest part about being around here is I live 5 minutes from where I grew up. I drive 40 minutes out here. I get my calls. I do my I actually do a lot of podcasting now, right? I'm listening in on everything around the country. And during the pandemic, that was a phenomenal piece of my day. But yeah, I was on the beach every summer as a young kid and guarding in that chair and doing all the events, doing everything, towing the line. I swim the line a lot.
So you are preparing your season a little bit differently. You sprinkle in the club meets, but you are really getting ready for Easterns, which is usually, I believe, the second weekend in February. And I know that is the primary focus of the season. So talk about how you get the athletes ready for that meet, and then how you might parlay that experience into what you have planned for their club season.
Right. So it's a little bit of a double. And this year and last year, we, you know, took advantage of US Open, but last year, especially, we were able to map out the entire year. I mean, it was one of the best things I've seen in coaching. We were able to mock the ISL, and we did a little PSL. We were able, you know, over 2 weekends, we split the team up into 4 groups and just went head to head and battled. But we were able to place that meet so well that the kids swam significantly faster than probably what they would have. We had all this time training. And so that's a lesson that we're taking into this year. 3 years ago, we had the Holiday Classic. I don't know if you guys come down for that at all, but it's usually held at Rutgers. It's just a simple 3-day meet, prelims, finals. And 3 years ago, we decided we're going to scratch that. We said, you know, we lose a lot when the holidays come around. So we're going to primarily focus on our Thanksgiving Classic, which we're holding again this year. Jump through December, really take it as just a training overload month. Get into January even, and some of the kids will be like, yeah, January is still kind of hard, right? But we are going to shoot for kind of like a double rest going into Easterns, and we'll try to schedule enough time in between where kids aren't just looking forward to the Saturday next. Really having a good outlook on leading up, because I don't know about you, but a lot of my kids will say, oh, I need to take it down, you know, in the weight room, or I need to take it down, get off my legs for a little bit. And I said, no, you need to jump right through this, swim it out, and get enough volume to where you can last over a 2-3 week period of rest. For some of them, it could be up to 4, but that's so individual. And a lot of my girls are only, you know, dropping a rest of 3 days. So swimming at Easterns is obviously a primary focus. We're going to try to catch a little bit of speed in the early season. We'll have a huge block and racing ourselves into shape approaching Easterns. Easterns is a great meet, right? Everyone can go as long as you're an independent school. You kind of have your in a little bit. There's no qualifying times, right? You're going. I think my first year I watched 2 guys battle for 425, 500. It was phenomenal. And then when we're up there and the relays are loud, this year's probably going to be a little different. We don't know what spectators are going to do. And I think that had a big impact on trials. I think it had a big impact at the Olympics. I think you really sit down some of those people that had a taste of 2016, they'll say there's a big change. So I'm riding on, let's prepare them as best as possible. Let's try to double it and jump from one to the next really well, race fast and hard in between, and go from there, because summer's right around the corner.
Yeah, that's awesome. And talk to me a little bit about this, because you have experience as, you know, an NCAA All-American who swam with many of the best athletes in our sport during your competitive career. This Olympic Games and specifically our Olympic team, we saw a lot of 18 and under swimmers make an impact. What are your thoughts on that? And why do you think that this was the year that we were able to kind of get back to that?
Yeah, I mean, when was the last year? Mike, when do you think the last year was that we had such a young team? I don't know.
I would say it was probably late 70s, early 80s.
I was going to say 76, right? I mean, that era of going against the East Germans and having horror stories coming out of that one, you know what I mean, probably. But oh man, I mean, I think that young factor is huge, and they're prepared. They can last trials, but as long as they can get through trials, I feel, right? As long as they can get through and they don't break down at that meet, I think Olympics doesn't become easy, right? I mean, I don't know for sure. I was not an Olympian by any means, but I think there's a little ignorance factor, and I think there's a little like don't cut the dog out of the fight yet. And to see the breaststroke and see some of the combined relays, it was amazing to see some of those girls and boys and young men, young women step up. I don't quite know the exact answer, right? And and they're coming from all over the place, but people are deciding to move and train with the best of the best. I think that's starting to happen younger and younger. On the international scene, it's happening, right? We're seeing people almost say, yeah, with NIL, you know, rules happening and everything coming in, I can make a ton of money. Like the collegiate scene in the US is not it anymore, quite honestly. And I'm a little worried about that. I think internationally we'll be racing well beyond our years, but I'm a little worried about, you know, NCAA level coming up in the coming years. Only because I know we have a lot of young talent in the country, but we're not going to see that mix too much internationally. We'll see it domestically, but getting to a program that fits you and to bring it back, that's kind of Peddie School and kind of our common friend and athlete, right? Getting back and being able to offer and having the sweet spot of academics and athletics is big, and that's what we do well here. We are here for that kid that wants to elevate themselves a little bit in the classroom, have a little bit of a culturally, you know, integral piece of living with friends and living among your teachers and whatever else, and having the access to the pool and with high school training. And I'm probably getting off the point of the subject here, but with high school training and the possessive nature of some high school coaches, between club and high school coaches, you know, Peddie School, you're everything's under one roof, and it's a 5-minute trek across campus. You're not trying to be two places at once. You're in it in the moment, and you're where your feet are, and you're going to do the best where you can do your best. So to get back to the Olympic piece and the young athletes, keep doing your thing, get into a program that and a process that you believe in, and go for it. I don't think there's any age to success. I mean, you always hear experience, but to a certain degree, and it's a certain standard, it's sometimes a lack of experience is really, really cool too, to watch and just see, and that race didn't make sense, but that's what I want to see, right? And you're excited about the next quad, and you're excited about the future of that kid, and possibly the country that they're competing for, right?
I love it, man. And and I agree with you.
Yeah.
And like me, you are in a position where you are counseling and guiding your sophomores, juniors, and seniors towards collegiate matriculation. And what I'm finding this year and this past year is it's been an incredible challenge just to find a place for my athletes, especially the boys, to find programs, whether it's Division 1, 2, or even 3, because there are so many 5th or 6th-year athletes who are granted that additional year of eligibility by the NCAA. The rosters are full. We are very fortunate this week to have our first commit. We have a young man going to Bucknell,
Awesome.
and he's going to do great there. But for a while, even at schools where our athletes at the club level would make an immediate impact at the conference championships, they were being told by coaches like, look, I'm sorry, we just don't have a roster spot. So how are you helping some of your juniors and seniors through this process?
We have great advisors here. We have college advisors. We have in-class support. As a coach, I see the same thing you're saying, right? I see kids that maybe deferred a year that are taking that 5th or 6th grant. I see the wait lists ever expanding in some universities and institutions, and placing yourself there is quite difficult, and making sure that you're the good fit for that person or program is even more important. It doesn't matter if you're a blue chip athlete going into a college program, you have to understand that program. But I'm hoping kids aren't taking the first thing that is offered, right? I'm really hoping. My magic number is 3. Like, you have to get 3 trips in, get them under your belt, be able to compare them. If you get that pressure from a coaching staff that says, hey, before you leave this trip or before the end of the week, we'd like to have your answer, or sorry, we can't promise you a spot. I hope we're not getting to that. And I think those programs still exist, but a lot of them don't anymore. I think a lot of people like Jim Henry, right? He does a great job in just letting the athletes develop. He literally will sit back, he'll stay in communication. And from what I'm understanding, right, is that you will then say, you know what, you're the right fit. And that's Yale, right? That's a special program and a special school. But I think it's important to do that. And I hope that more college coaches are able to do that in the coming years, as the recruiting ages come down so much. I just tell my kids all the time, make sure you're getting yourself placed right, and I'll do my best to communicate with that coach, that coaching staff, or get some unofficial transcripts forward and say, let's not waste your time maybe with this school, because, well, let's be honest, you're maybe not marketable for that school. So you could dream it all you want sometimes, and I don't want to crush dreams, but I'm all for cutting out a little bit of slack, right, and getting everything a little bit more concise. And so you kind of have to hope that the schools have those setups where you can send your unofficial transcripts, you have your standardized scores, whatever it is, you have your times. And they're saying, am I a good fit? Am I not? Can this work? What's the financial aid package? Do they have a calculator? And working through all of that. And like I said, we have a great set of advisors, college counselors here, that understand that through and through, probably better than I ever will. And I really just support it, and I understand it. And that's really all I try to get my athletes to understand.
There's no doubt about that. And one of the things that you're in a really fortunate position to be in, and I'm not sure, if it's still this way, but give us the pitch for doing a PG year for that college senior who might say, you know what, I'm going to try out a Peddie, I'm going to try out a Baylor, I'm going to try out a Mercersburg or a Lawrenceville, get my grades up a little bit higher, get that college preparatory environment, and swim with a top-notch program. Give us a pitch for that athlete who is in a position to have the fortunate opportunity to go to a school like Peddie for a PG.
Yeah, I think it's underutilized. And I think it's something that should and needs to come back. And I've been in touch with certain colleges to say, do you have that program still available, right? Even the military academies of sorts, right? They've got a foundation where they can support and provide that, right? It becomes on them. But like I said, they're doing their due diligence and making sure that that student athlete is able to transition out of it. Again, I think it's underutilized for our sport. I've seen it a little bit more for football. And a school like Peddie, I'd say maybe we have 12 spots, right? I don't want to speak for our admission staff too much, but I'd say we have about 12 spots for PGs every year across all sports. That's not 12 spots for each sport. That's across all sports. And you know what? They're able to take a lot of college courses that will transfer here at Peddie. They're able to get the training. Like I said, we have a very collegiate schedule. We take that approach in the swimming world, right? Again, I can't speak for too many other sports, but football's doing a great job with it. Austin Frank, our wrestling coach, is doing a great job with it. And so, yes, that'll elevate a program a little bit too, but to a certain degree, it's our sense of community service, right? And for kids that might need it, whether they're going for a military prep year or going for a school that they maybe aren't ready yet for, or school's not ready for them yet. Maybe they're looking for a certain time, or they're looking to graduate a backstroker out of their program and say, okay, now I can support you fully and bring you in. We want you, we need you. Let's just wait a year. That's the place that Peddie School is. And again, it serves the community and the broader community very well in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many great opportunities at so many of those schools like Peddie to just enrich your opportunity to go to a higher level school if that's truly your goal. I think especially for those athletes who attending an Ivy League school or a Stanford or a Georgetown or a Johns Hopkins or a Kenyon and a Denison, it gives you the opportunity to mature, right? Which all of us high school seniors probably could have used. I sometimes kick myself. I was accepted at Deerfield and Hotchkiss for a PG year, and I decided not to do it. And I think I probably should have, but wow. I think it's wonderful to see that you are so invested in continuing the traditions at Peddie. I'm super excited for Sarah. I'm super excited for your program. And what are you most excited about moving forward? I mean, give us the sales pitch for parents who are looking at schools like Peddie.
I'm super excited about our admission staff working collaboratively with our athletics department. It has been kind of an absolute monster in the sense that I get the inquiries immediately. If you inquire, so the broad spectrum of it is you inquire, you apply, you interview, you kind of get your whole package set up, and you move on and leave it to higher beings to decide. But what's happening at the athletics level here at Peddie right now is something to really take a look at. The facilities are phenomenal. The schedules are great. The support is right there, next level. And I really think we're getting the right people in the right places, coaching wise. I was able to keep Greg Reed on staff a little bit, right? And even though he's kind of reshaped and brought into another area of the campus, I thought it was important bringing him in. He's a very technical coach, right? He's a very technical coach, and we have another full-time staff member, and then a full-time faculty teacher that's coaching with us right now. So we get a little bit of both worlds going on within the sport. But parents, swimmers out there, if you're looking for, again, that enrichment piece, and you're saying to yourself right now that maybe you're not finding that correct place in school, which is really where I see it, right? Come take a look, inquire, take a tour, meet with me, meet with a staff member, talk to some of the kids that are on the team, and really see where those kids are headed once they are, once the time's done here at Peddie, and you might get a sense of, hey, that's for me. But our financial aid package is huge, right? We've got philanthropist, Walter Annenberg. Okay, so Walter Annenberg is actually a USC graduate. He's also a Peddie graduate, and I'm sure he probably got his MBA somewhere in another institution. But he donated. His first investment was $12 million, right? I think 10 years later, maybe it was $100 million. That $100 million investment donation was made to create. It was solely allocated for financial aid. He wanted kids to be able to go to Peddie who may never have the chance to go to Peddie financially, and so that's the financial package that's there. And we have a lot of kids that apply and get it, right. And it's a great piece because, again, the resources are endless. It's a phenomenal area, and I never knew it existed to this level that it does until I really stepped foot on campus and kind of appreciated it to what it is.
I can tell people who are watching this, if you're a club coach and you have an athlete who might be in the situation where they want to do a PG or take their senior year and go to a school like Peddie, you're going to get great communication from a person like Emmett. He's going to let you know how they're doing. He's going to stay in touch. And that's a quality that we can certainly appreciate in the developmental process of our athletes. So from all of us here at Victor Swim Club, we thank you.
Right on, man. Appreciate that.
And I so look forward, Emmett, to watching your team have great success this year. No doubt that they will. And I look forward to seeing you on deck at a couple meets.
All right, Mike.
Hey, Emmett,
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. If people have questions for you or they want to get in touch with you directly, what's the best way for them to do that?
First initial, last name, ewalling@peddie.org. Social media, I currently manage the handle, Peddie_swimming. I'm happy to email back and forth. I'm happy to text and call back and forth. So get out on one of those platforms and get in touch with me. And I'll share everything I know here. And if I don't know it, I'll find someone else who can answer the questions that you may have.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you, and good luck this season.
Thank you. You too.